Hey folks, the human mind can be a pretty fascinating subject. When I was little, many years ago, when I was this tall, it happened that while I was watching the news with my family, a rather nasty crime story came up, and my father commented, "Ugh, the human mind is a fucking abyss." And I thought he was damn right, although I cannot really remember what was that disturbing news anymore. I'm old. And always talking about the bizarreness of the mind, a genius named Tim Schafer must have thought exploring it would be a lot of fun, and the more twisted, the better. Today we're going to rediscover Psychonauts, a game I always loved and considered a visionary masterpiece, that even after more than 20 years remains impressive and insanely creative. We play as Razputin Aquato, aka Raz, a 10-year-old boy with exceptional psychic powers, who has a dream: to join the Psychonauts, a kind of federal secret agents who protect the world with their psychic abilities. To achieve this, he will run away from his family of circus performers led by his father, who is particularly averse to psychics, and sneak into the Whispering Rock Psychic Summer Camp.
The human mind. 600 miles of synaptic fiber, 5.5 ounces of cranial fluid, 1,500 grams of complex neural matter. It is the ultimate battlefield and the ultimate weapon. From this day forward, you are all psychic soldiers, paranormal paratroopers, and those of you who fight well, you will find yourselves on the path to becoming international secret agents. In other words, Psychonauts! The rest of you...
The camp is actually a government facility, where kids with psychic powers are gathered and trained as potential future agents, and Raz is soon caught without permission. He is not allowed to stay and learn, but he proves to be an excellent and charismatic speaker, and convinces the camp counselors to take him in until his parents arrive to take him home.
Do you remember what you wrote on the inside of that pamphlet? You were born with a special gift, but the people around you treat it like a curse. But in this dojo, in this psychic dojo, they make you a hero.
Get that soldier a bunk!
And that was the introduction, where Psychonauts immediately shows off its unmistakable style with cartoonish and curiously deformed characters, who ooze charisma from every pixel, not to mention the exceptional voice acting. The beginning of Psychonauts is adorable. We begin by choosing a bank that serves as a profile for saves, and then we begin wandering around the first area of the camp, where we'll get to know its bizarre members, starting with Dogen, who wears a tinfoil hat to curb his immense powers, which can make people's heads explode. Wait, this isn't normal. No. Believe me, this is just the first of many absurd things that will happen in this game. Oh, you have no idea what comes next. The summer camp is the game's main hub, and initially we can only explore the kids' cabins area. There's not much to do, aside talking to other kids, collect some things like psych cards and hero heads, and also do some platforming around. Our main goal is to reach Coach Oleander's treehouse office and get access to the first mental ward, the basic braining course, but not before meeting the camp bully, Bobby.
Hey, kid! You owe me 5 arrowheads for this week's protection service.
Hey, leave him alone.
I heard a rumor that you were raised in the circus. I'm the strong man around here.
Really? Because you look more like the cotton candy.
And this, folks, is Raz, a very interesting fellow. Mental words are the trademark of Psychonauts. There are 10 of them, and many are ingenious with their gimmicks and creative imagery. And here we are, entering the coach's mental world through a door in his forehead. Huh. Wow.
You're late, soldier. Now get in here and give me 20.
This mental world is essentially a big tutorial. The war setting suggests that Coach Oleander is some sort of war veteran, perhaps an honorable and valiant person, or it could even be all a setup to train the children. Who knows? Anyway, the level contains all the basic elements about mental worlds, such as the different types of collectibles. The first are the figments. There are up to hundreds of them in each level, both stationary and floating. Figments are fragments of the host's imagination. They are among the symbolic elements that reflect the person's psyche, and for every 100 we collect, we gain a psyche-added rank. Psyche-added ranks are essentially levels that allows us to unlock new abilities, or enhance existing ones, but we'll delve into this later. Continuing, among other collectibles are emotional baggage. There are 5 in each world, and we can spot them nearby because they cry constantly, and need their corresponding tag to become happy and fly away after a short skit.
Onward and upward, soldier!
Their placement is somewhat random, and sometimes the tag is a bit far away, requiring a bit of exploration and backtracking. Finding all 5 unlocks an additional psyche-added rank, and also a primal memories, which can be consulted from the menu and contains concept art for the level in question and the characters. Next up we have the memory vaults. They run away from us like dogs, and we must hit them to open them. There are 2 in each mental world, and capturing one unlocks a series of memories that often flesh out the characters' inner demons and the traumas that have shaped their lives. The first one, belonging to Coach Oleander, shows us what a great person he was. A real war hero. But, is it all true? It feels a bit artificial to me, almost as if it were designed specifically to impress children. Oh look! There's one behind what seems to be a cobweb, but we cannot reach it just yet. Cobwebs are a special collectible representing another aspect of the psyche, and to collect them we'll need a specific tool that is mandatory to obtain later in the game, but for now we can leave them where they are and move on. We've talked about collectibles and symbolism so far, but I imagine you're wondering what the game itself is actually like, right? In short, Psychonauts is an action-adventure platformer, enriched with gimmicky puzzles and fights. Whether in the mental worlds or the real world, Raz can perform a simple attack combo, and even unleash a powerful diving attack. But for now, it's simply a matter of solving a few simple puzzles like this, or destroying obstacles. The structure of this first level is pretty linear, like an obstacle course where we'll have to learn to perform acrobatics on the bars and trapezes, among many other things. I won't deny that the platforming in Psychonauts can often feel a bit janky and imprecise, and certain sections will even require multiple attempts. I do not blame anyone for criticizing it harshly, but for me it's a price worth paying given everything else the game offers. Anyway, after all the acrobatics amidst the obstacles, the slides along metal beams, and the curious interactions with the various kids involved, like this one telling an endless nonsensical story while on a plane about to crash, we reach the end of this introductory level and Raz earns his first badge.
You surprised me out there, kid. Here, You've earned this. Your first Psychonaut merit badge. But I'm always glad to see a soldier come back from the field alive.
Raz has talent, and this catches the eye of one of the counselors, Sasha 9, who invites him to his secret laboratory after giving him a clue item. Completing the breeding course also means he will now have access to all the areas of the summer camp, which is full of secrets and collectibles to find. It's not a huge job to explore. The navigation is actually pretty simple, and full of reference points to orient ourselves. And if we venture off the paths, we might even end up running into wandering psychic bears. Wait, what? How can this beast roam freely and attack children? That's pretty insane, and for now it's better to avoid them, since they're capable of grabbing rats with telekinesis and slash him to death. The fuck? In any case, the field is littered with easy-to-spot arrowheads that serve as currency for purchasing items, like the cobweb duster at the shop inside the main lodge, by talking to the chef. Hey, that chef looks just like the janitor from before. And that ranger too. And even that mysterious old guy who taught us the basics at the start of the game. Oh well, that's Agent Ford Kruller, who will play a primary role throughout the whole game. If you jump into this hollow trunk, Raz lands on a computer-equipped cart that takes him to the discovered summer camp's main areas, and even the secret ones. It's essentially a fast travel system, and reaching Ford Kruller's sanctuary is a key milestone in the game. You see, at this fantastic base, Agent Ford ends as badges, and even unlocks a new method of travel and assistance. In this kit, Agent Ford gives Raz a piece of bacon.
Is that a piece of bacon?
Oh, yeah. I just love bacon. I smell that stuff and I can't help it. I drop everything and come running.
Okay. Do you have like a little baggie or something I could put this in?
You get a move on or I'll eat that right here.
By using it from the inventory, the agent pops out of Raz's ear, allowing him to return to the sanctuary at any time, and then be sent back to the exact spot he left, whether it's a mental ward or an area of the camp. Plus, Agent Ford can offer hints on how to proceed with the current situation, or even on how to deal with the enemies. I'll tell you, I've always found the way Psychonauts guides and helps the player very clever. It offers various fast travel methods, even within the mental worlds divided into zones, by interacting with these strange creatures, and also lists all collectibles in each area with a menu to assist completationists. Overall, it's never intrusive with quest marks and the like. Not that Psychonauts is a difficult game, quite the opposite. Figuring out what to do next is almost always very intuitive, save for a few slightly cryptic sections. Just a few. Always in the sanctuary, we can also convert the found psych cards and cobwebs into psychadet ranks. To convert 9 cards per time into a rank, we'll first need the psych cores that are sold for just 10 arrowheads at the camp store, and transform them into Psy Challenge markers, which can also be found scattered around the camp. It's a pretty simple and, yes, cheap method, while on the other hand, removing cobwebs requires the purchase of the cobweb duster, and this thing costs 800 arrowheads and requires a psychadet rank of 20. Now, reaching the 20th rank is not difficult, and requires just a bit of progress through the story, but all those arrowheads are quite a pain in the ass to find, unless we buy the dowsing rod for just 50. This tool breaks the game. We'll find hundreds of arrowheads within minutes. I love these things. Scattered around the camp we'll also find the scavenger hunt items. In short, it's a treasure hunt for a total of 16 unique items that can be considered Easter eggs. For every 8 we find, Ranger Cruller will boost our rank by a full 4 levels. Finding them is not even that hard. In fact, some are like simple puzzles that require specific powers unlocked during the story, like telekinesis or invisibility. Oh yes, the story. Now I think we'd better get back to the plot. Reaching Agent 9's laboratory is not complicated. By selecting the button from the inventory and talking to people, we can easily get clues of its whereabouts. And no, I will not show you where it is. Come on, that's easy. So, our Sasha here sees great potential in Raz, and decides to subject him to a session with the Brain Tumbler, an extraordinary machine that allows one to enter the collective unconscious, and even his own mind.
Excellent. Tumble away.
Now just relax. This will not hurt. Unless something really very bad happens.
Looks very safe. This astral plane can be considered a classic level selection area, from which you can return to previously completed levels to aim for full completion, and these icons beside each door indicate whether all emotional baggage, memory vaults, cobwebs, and figments have been collected. It's now time to enter Raz's own psyche, his own mental world, and it's called Brain Tumbler Experiment. The starting point is his family traveling caravan, which is actually a recurring place. We'll often return here whenever we acquire a new power that requires a tutorial. Everything is pretty normal for now, but from the next area onwards things will take a decidedly different turn. The next part in the Tumbler experiment is a kind of twisted reality, full of unfamiliar elements to us that actually foreshadow future plot twists. But to proceed through the next obstacles, he will need new powers that will be acquired through the mental worlds of his counselors. First, Agent 9 will teach Raz the power of marksmanship. His mental world is built around his training, but it ingeniously reflects his personality. Just look! A perfectly shaped cube with scenarios emerging from its faces that contain elements of his psyche, such as his childhood, as well as spawning points for new enemies, the sensors, which appear throughout almost all future levels. The goal is to take down the sensors while hitting designated targets, interspersed with platforming sections. However, all the classic elements are present too. I mean the emotional baggage, the figments, etc. Agent 9's mental world is truly organized and intelligent, just like the character himself, a German secret agent. And there's even an easy-to-beat first boss at the end. The next step is learning levitation, which will take us into Agent Vodelo's mental world. But to reach her, we'll need a bot, because in case you had not realized yet, Raz has a bad relationship with water, or at least I believe it's only with bodies of water like lakes and rivers. Otherwise, how does the kid wash himself? Right? Agent Vodelo's mind is a riot of color and sound, reminiscent of that neon-filled 1960s disco style. Mia's sunny maternal personality is nothing short of infectious. Her mental world is built entirely around levitation, which involves the psychic ball we can use in various ways: running faster, jumping much further and higher, gliding, or even floating along on currents. I would go so far as to say levitation is such a versatile power that it almost breaks the game. Aside from that, Agent Vodello's mental world is another great example of how Psychonauts handles unique personalities, people who might hide unexpected traumas behind great joyful cheer, who might laugh to avoid thinking about dark things, and well, hidden somewhere in this cheerful mind, there's a dark corner. Oh, that cursed chest right there. So, at this point in the game, we might have gained some confidence in the bizarre world of Psychonauts, observed the lively interactions between its oddball characters, and found collectibles scattered around. But it's also time to press on and witness the big plot twist. With each new power, Raz can advance through the Tumbler experiment and gradually uncover the clues revealing that something shady is going on behind the scenes, in one of the game's funniest, creepiest, and well-directed cutscenes.
Little boy, I am sorry to say that you have a very serious mental problem. The trouble originates in this area. Here, the area that we in the medical profession like to refer to as the brain. You see, son, it's just no good.
I know. People are always saying that. What do you think's wrong with my brain, Doctor?
How should I know? I'm a dentist. But here's what I do know. If a tooth is bad, you pull it.
But my teeth are fine.
Yep, mad brain's got to come out, boy.
Now that is how you introduce a potential villain. But wait, what do you mean removing the brain? What the hell is going on? Well, let's just say someone starts stealing the kid's brains. And hold on, that's not a huge spoiler. It's written right there on the game's back cover. See? Thanks, back cover. There are still so many weird things to get into this game. This is still the prologue.
He's completely brainless. The dream was true.
Psychonauts is truly a one-of-a-kind adventure, and there's a ton of bizarre stuff to talk about. The subsequent mental worlds reach incredible heights of creativity, featuring original mechanics and absurd personalities. Avoiding major spoilers is really difficult. In the next part of the video I'll talk a bit about the upcoming mental worlds, but as always I'll focus solely on a few details and avoid major spoilers. However, if you want to avoid even those, I suggest skipping to this timestamp. You have 5 seconds to decide. Now, imagine a 10-year-old boy who becomes the only hope for saving his fellow campers. He must delve into complex minds and confront their inner demons, to reach advanced stages where he will uncover a conspiracy with the help of Agent Cruller, who is always ready to guide him. And wait, it's not just human minds. No, at one point we'll even enter the mind of a sea monster. It first chases us in a sequence strongly reminiscent of a section from Rayman 2, and then we finally face it in our own field, the mental realm.
Top of the morning to you, ma'am.
And good day to you, Officer Lungfish.
Oh, Gagalo!
It was so hilarious to see Raz roaming around as a kaiju in a city of fish people, where you can even climb on buildings like King Kong, and in the meanwhile play a pivotal role as the trump card of a local resistance force in defeating the true villain polluting that mind.
So, knocking down the prison and then breaking this laser shield thing, nobody's gonna get mad about that and start shooting at me.
No!
Maybe one guy would.
But what is even an entire navy of lungfish against the might and revolutionary zeal of Gargalore?
Wait, what navy?
Meet us at the dam, Gargalore, for freedom!
You have no idea how much I chuckled the first time I experienced this level.
It's okay, everybody. Gargalore missed the orphanage.
And, if that weren't enough, we then have to contend with the twisted psyche of a paranoid conspiracy-obsessed guard in the game's most memorable and beloved level. The Milkman Conspiracy.
Where's the milkman?
I'll bet he's sleeping on the job. His milk is delicious. Everybody wants it. He'll be here soon. Then the lies will end.
Yeah! Not another tracking device!
Here we gain the clairvoyance power, which lets us see through others' eyes, leading to the discovery of even more brilliant touches throughout the game. The Milkman Conspiracy is set in this distorted world full of glory G-men that will chase and capture Raz whenever he enters their zone without a symbolic object in hand that camouflages him in their eyes.
Stop. This is a restricted area. Only phone company employees may approach the pole. Come with us. Who is the milkman? What is the purpose of the goggles? Why are you looking for the milkman? Where did you get the red sign? What happened inside that house?
The atmosphere is pretty unique, and the puzzles are intuitive. Wandering around this twisted-up neighborhood where gravity has its own laws, trying to understand how to elude these agents and uncover the mystery around the Milkman is quite the experience. The overall subplot is pretty crazy, and its ending is a freaking meme. Spoil such things is a crime. So, please experience it by yourselves. As I said, clairvoyance is a fascinating power, because we can use it on any NPC and see how that character or even enemy views Raz, who is almost always a stylized two-dimensional mental image. See, it's freaking fun to experiment and discover the different versions of him through other eyes, and that's exactly the kind of classy touch that makes Psychonauts such a great game. Somewhere a woman is trying to grow flowers. She looks quite disheveled. Her name is Gloria. She was once a successful actress, who has since fallen from grace due to some traumatic event, and also keeps a trophy close by. Try to touch it though, and she completely loses her mind. Now, imagine the mind of an actress with bipolar disorder. The setting is a theater, and the only spectator is a fat, grotesque, and ruthless critic. The core mechanic involves sending scripts to a stagehand to have actors perform plays and thus alter the set. We can also toggle the mood light, which reflects the host's bipolar nature, thereby changing the actors on stage to reflect either her angry or docile side. The great idea is that the players recreate key events of her life, and later will have to struggle against a phantomatic figure that shows itself whenever Gloria's alter ego, Bonita Soleil, enters the stage, ruining her performances by causing incidents.
Phantom!
I've seen some bad plays in my day, but this one's an actual menace! And it's all her fault. It's her bad acting that makes the Phantom strike.
Great, well, I'm off to go kill myself.
You know, you could be a more constructive critic.
Kid, if you want to see...
I have to say, this mental world, while featuring cool ideas like all the others, was the one I enjoyed the least, because at one point I was just doing random things, hoping to somehow progress to the catwalks, where the phantomatic villain awaits. Perhaps I'm just bad. Whatever. Listen up. Few things have struck me quite like the situation I encountered next.
Sacre bleu! I have been hit!
The mind of a descendant of a great historical figure, who spent years grappling with a tabletop war game, losing every single time to his ancestor. This time, however, we're going to help him win. And how? By shrinking down and entering the wargame itself. It's genius. I have to say, the idea of interacting with the game pieces and finding the resources needed to secure a victory for the host is truly original, and if we find ourselves in a tight spot, we can always ask for hints on how to proceed. In the end, it was truly rewarding to help the host overcome his tendency to give up. This is easily one of the top 3 mental wards. While all the previous levels deserved a prize for their mix of bizarreness and gameplay gimmicks, this next one is a gem for its artistry. Black Velvetopia is set in the mind of a tormented artist, Edgar, where everything including Raz is inspired by the velvet painting style. A raging bull races down the main street, running over anyone on its path. It's called El Odio, which means hatred, and it's a symbol of repressed anger. In the alleys we'll find painter dogs, who sell paintings that can be bought and placed in frames, to open up paths or create climbable elements in order to reach inaccessible places. They also provide additional backstory about Edgar and his torment. The goal is to traverse the city, avoiding El Odio, through platforming between balconies and other methods, and also find and defeat 4 luchadores who act like mini-bosses.
Introducing, fresh from the Thrilla in Manila, Iowa, Tiger!
Wake up, little man. Time to go nighty-night.
I am awake.
Good, because it is bedtime for you, Snake Size.
The luchadores are fairly easy to defeat once you understand their pattern, and I must say that seeing them performing a pile driver on a little kid is kinda hilarious. To defeat the last one will be provided the power of confusion, but unfortunately, the video file with that luchador is corrupted, and I cannot show it to you. Shit happens. Anyway, defeating the luchadores is necessary to obtain queen cards that can be given to Edgar to build a ladder to the sun, where he will finally face his past demons with a very interesting twist. With its incredible style, Black Velvetopia is another of the game's top levels in terms of gimmicks and aesthetics, and its story and ending are also among my favorites of the bunch. So, those were the mental wards I wanted to talk about, though there's actually one more. The final one, accessed after the point of no return where the game autosaves, allowing us to reload and finish up any unfinished business. The final level of Psychonauts is a bit controversial, and I will just share a little opinion without showing anything about it. To start, not many people like it, partly due to a significant spike in difficulty, but I personally enjoyed it for what it shows and tells. After all, the game contains various unnerving platforming sections throughout the whole experience, and the final stage is no exception. I've always appreciated the way everything foreshadowed throughout the game finds a resolution in the ending. Once again, I was able to admire the creator's ability to handle very serious themes with their unique style. What makes Psychonauts memorable is that its levels, those mental wards manifesting the psyches of seemingly eccentric individuals, are not merely a stylistic exercise, but the result of careful study. See, beneath the symbolism, the various oddities, the many references to pop culture and the storylines, lie individuals whose traumas and mental states represent genuine cases of mental disorders. Over the past few weeks, I've enjoyed watching videos from Gaming University, a channel which analyzes these words one by one, and even offers a general overview of the campers. It's truly fascinating content that I really recommend to anyone who has played Psychonauts and wants to delve deeper. And while we're at it, there's a fictional social network called Campster, created by Double Fine themselves. Basically, every kid has their own page, where we can learn more about their interests and personal details. We can even read comments from the other kids and have a laugh at their interactions, and perhaps catch a glimpse of a darker side too. Oh, by the way, I have to say, Bobby has good taste in music. Speaking of gameplay gain, this time I played using a controller instead of the keyboard. Everything felt pretty smoothly, as movements are very responsive, and navigating the menus to select items or powers is very simple. And speaking of powers, there are 8 in total, unlocked as we progress through the story. Sometimes they're granted to us specifically to resolve a certain situation, like an environmental puzzle or for defeating the next boss, though they can also be used in combat against common enemies. Setting them on fire drains their health over time, invisibility lets us flank them, and the shield is crucial for deflecting certain attacks. As I mentioned, some powers even get upgraded as the Psy rank increases. Psy blasts can hit multiple nearby enemies, the shield knocks out and damages attackers, invisibility lasts twice as long, and so on. That said, it must be admitted that Psychonauts doesn't offer much in terms of challenge and combat variety. Aside from somewhat intriguing boss fights, we mostly find ourselves battling sensors divided in different tiers, the occasional mini-bosses and some other minor enemies. Before wrapping up the video, I would also like to highlight a few other nice touches in the game. For instance, we can try using our powers on NPCs and see how they react. We cannot actually hurt anyone, except the critters, but it's fun to watch their annoyed reactions.
Hey! Put me down! Or my dad will sue your whole family! Put me down! Or Kitty's dad will sue your whole family!
Okay, that's funny. Now put me down!
Thanks for the boost. But no, still can't see no bears from up here.
Put me down, partner, or I'll show you what a good shot I am.
Well, what's this all about, eh?
Another stroke of genius is the way the game prevents us from entering just anyone's mind at will using the Psycho Portal. It really seems like the developers thought of everything, and I love it. And that, folks, was Psychonauts. I don't think there's anything else to add. There's no point in me going on again about the incredible aesthetic, the catchy music, and the top-notch voice acting. Now that I'm 36 and a bit more knowledgeable, I've even noticed that one of my favorite voice actors of recent years, David Kay, aka Beast Wars Megatron, masterfully lent his voice to various characters, making each of them unique. If you were wondering about the game's total length, it took me about 17 hours to find almost all the collectibles. I just kept collecting all the figments. See, it's a pretty tedious task that I did not enjoy at all. Replaying this classic after 20 years was fantastic, and I hope to encourage anyone to try it for the first time in 2026, or perhaps give it another chance if you didn't like it before. Perhaps it's also time for me to play the sequels. Who knows? As always, a warm thanks to all viewers. And remember, the milkman might sleep on the job and be nowhere to be found, but his milk remains delicious. See you in the next entry. And watch out for the glowies.
Where is the milkman? Who is the milkman? What is the mission of the milkman?